What does the Oracle already know about Neo? In Revolutions, Neo demands the truth after stopping 4 sentinels with his mind. She gives it to him directly.
The power of the One extends beyond this world. It reaches from here all the way back to where it came from.
That single line closes the case. Neo's powers in the real world are not a mystery the films leave open. They are a technical fact the trilogy states out loud and trusts the audience to connect. The power runs on a line. That line has 2 ends. One end is Neo. The other end is the source, the machine mainframe itself. Everything Neo does outside the Matrix, sensing sentinels, going blind and still seeing, entering a construct with no cable in his skull, happens because that line exists and stays open. This video traces exactly when that line opened, what carries the signal, and why it has a hard edge. Neo slams into more than once. Welcome to Zion. Welcome to the desert of the real. Why is Neo's body not actually human? Start with the body itself, because the body is where the machinery already lives before Neo ever meets the architect. Morpheus lays out the origin of every human born after the war in the clearest line in the entire trilogy.
There are fields, Neo. Endless fields, where human beings are no longer born.
Grown is the operative word. Humans post-war are manufactured. They come out of pods wired with sockets, connectors, and a spine full of jacks built by the machines for the machine's own purposes. Every single person Neo has ever met carries this same hardware. The body count of purely organic humans left alive by the time of the trilogy is effectively 0. Zion citizens like to think of themselves as free of the machine. Their bodies say otherwise. The jack behind Neo's skull is not a hole punched into flesh. It is a port that was manufactured into him from birth, engineered exactly the way a factory engineers a socket into a device it plans to network later. Here's the detail most fans skate past. The film never claims this hardware goes dark the moment someone unplugs. It shows a physical connector being removed. It never shows the internal wiring being deleted. The tech stays embedded. It just stops actively receiving anything. The way a phone with airplane mode on still has a working antenna sitting inside it, silent, waiting for something to switch it back on. Neo spends the entirety of the first film and most of the second with that hardware sitting dormant. Then something reaches in and switches it. What really happened the moment Neo sat down across from the architect? The architect chamber gets remembered as a philosophy lecture. It is actually the single most important technical event in the trilogy, because it is the moment Neo's dormant hardware gets a live signal pushed into it. Listen to what the architect actually says his function is.
The function of the One is now to return to the source, allowing a temporary dissemination of the code you carry, reinserting the prime program.
Everyone before Neo carries prime program code. That code exists to be reinserted into the source when the One reaches the chamber. Neo sits in that room, face to face with the source's own administrator, carrying code built specifically to interface with the machine mainframe. The architect does not need to hand Neo a device or plug in a cable. Neo's body already has the receiver. All the architect has to do is treat Neo the way any system treats a device standing at the door with the correct credentials. Authenticate it, then let it talk to the network. Trace the timeline, and the proof writes itself. Before this meeting, across the entire first film and the first 2 acts of Reloaded, Neo shows 0 abilities outside the Matrix. He punches through walls inside the simulation. He dodges bullets inside the simulation. Off the plug, he is an ordinary human being who bleeds, sleeps, and gets scared of heights. Then, he sits across from the architect. Minutes of screen time later, running from sentinels back to the dock, everything changes.
Something's different. I can feel them.
That's it. That's the whole shift, captured in 5 words. He collapses moments later, having stopped 4 sentinels with his mind alone. No plug, no construct, nothing but raw contact with machines that are wired into the same source Neo just sat inside. The architect meeting is not a conversation Neo walks away from unchanged. It is a credentialing event. Before the chamber, Neo is unlicensed hardware. After the chamber, he is on the network. Here's a detail that rarely gets airtime. The architect explicitly says Neo's predecessors experienced this connection in a very general way, while Neo's is far more specific. That specificity is usually read only as an explanation for why Neo loves Trinity instead of loving Zion in the abstract, but specificity cuts both ways. If Neo's emotional wiring runs deeper and more precisely than the 5 ones before him, there is no reason to assume his technical wiring runs any shallower. The anomaly that makes Neo unique doesn't stop at his heart. It runs through every system connected to his code. Why couldn't Neo's powers reach a train station? If this connection were something mystical, it would have no edges. Magic doesn't respect property lines. A network permission does, and this is where Revolutions hands over the proof that turns speculation into certainty. After Neo separates his mind from his body without ever jacking in, he wakes up trapped in Mobile Avenue, a construct built by a program called the Trainman to smuggle exiled programs between the human world and the machine world. A program living there, Ramachandra, explains exactly what the place is.
This place is nowhere. It is between your world and our world.
Nowhere is the key word. Mobile Avenue sits off the source's grid entirely, a private space the Trainman built and controls, not a location the architect's administrative reach was ever designed to touch. And the Trainman states his authority over it in the bluntest terms in the whole trilogy.
I built this place. Down here, I make the rules. Down here, I make the threats. Down here, I'm God.
Neo, the man who stopped 4 Sentinels with a thought and would soon fly through the machine city itself, cannot force his way out of this room. He tries. He fails completely, stuck until Trinity strongarms the Merovingian into ordering his release. That failure is the entire proof of the theory. Neo's powers are not limitless because they were never meant to be. They work exactly as far as the source's authority reaches and stop the instant he steps into territory the source does not administer. A miracle wouldn't recognize a boundary like that. A permission system would, every time. How does a blind man see code? The clearest single demonstration that Neo's powers are technological, not spiritual, comes from the one scene where his human eyes are physically destroyed and his sight keeps working anyway. Bane, possessed by Smith, burns out Neo's eyes on the Logos before the final battle. By every rule of biology, Neo should be finished, fumbling in permanent darkness. Instead, seconds later, facing down the man who blinded him, Neo says 3 words that break the scene wide open.
I can see you.
He is not speaking figuratively. He perceives Smith's code glowing inside Bane's body, the same red-on-black cascade the audience has watched agents and programs rendered in since the first film. Destroying Neo's eyes does nothing to this sense, because his eyes were never the hardware doing the seeing. The signal comes through the same channel that let him feel the Sentinels back at the dock. He is reading code directly off the source's network, and organic eyeballs were only ever a translation layer his brain no longer needs. The Oracle had already told the audience exactly what this sense is back at the start of Revolutions, in the same conversation that opened this video.
The source, that's what you felt when you touched those sentinels.
Touched is doing enormous work in that sentence. Not imagined, not intuited. Touched, the same verb used for a physical connection. It is the same sense Bane's Smith-corrupted code triggers in a blind man on a crashed ship, and the same sense that lets Neo, minutes from death, guide the Logos toward the machine city by feel alone rather than by sight, calling out the fields below before Trinity can confirm them on instruments. Every one of these moments is the identical signal, arriving through the identical channel, activated the same day the architect let him onto the network. What happened to a runner who broke the matrix from the inside? The trilogy is not the only canon source to show a plugged-in human forcing a connection the system never intended. The Animatrix episode World Record gets treated as a stylish curiosity. A sprinter named Dan Davis, who runs so hard he nearly breaks free of his pod. Watched next to Neo's arc, it is a preview of the exact same mechanism running in reverse. Dan pushes his simulated body past its programmed limits during a race, and the strain starts tearing at the connection between his mind and his physical shell back in the pod. The machine operators monitoring him panic in real time as his signal destabilizes.
He cannot wake up. Do not let him wake up.
The line only makes sense if the boundary between the simulated mind and the plugged-in body is a controllable, breakable connection, not an unbreakable wall. Dan almost wakes himself up through sheer physical effort, threatening to punch a hole in a boundary the machines assumed was one-directional and absolute. The operators treat it as a containment breach, not a mystery. This episode was released years before Revolutions, and it quietly told the audience the entire premise the trilogy would need later. The wire between a human and the system is not fixed. It can be strained. It can be forced. It can, under the right conditions, be pushed through from either side. Dan pushes inward toward waking. Neo, after the architect's chamber, pushes outward toward the source. Same wire, same vulnerability, opposite direction. Who has been editing Neo this whole time? Here is the detail that reframes everything above it. The architect is not the first entity to reach into Neo's code. The Oracle got there first in the very first film, and she did it with a plate of cookies.
Take a cookie. I promise by the time you're done eating it, you'll feel right as rain.
Food does not exist inside the Matrix. Nothing about a simulated cookie carries nutritional value for a simulated body, which means the cookie is never actually about hunger. It is a delivery mechanism, offered by a program the Merovingian later confirms operates entirely through cause and effect, planted at the exact moment Neo needs to walk out of that apartment believing he controls his own fate. Something shifts in him immediately afterward. He starts making the choices that build toward becoming the anomaly the architect will eventually license. The Oracle edits Neo's belief in himself years before the architect ever touches his network permissions. Put the two events side by side, and the trilogy stops being a story about a chosen one discovering hidden magical destiny. It becomes the story of two rival programs, one designing the Matrix and one designing its exceptions, both reaching into the same anomaly's code at different points and for different reasons. The Oracle writes to Neo's belief. The architect writes to Neo's network access. Everything the audience calls a superpower is really just the visible output of two separate edits landing on the same target. That is why Neo's abilities in the real world were never a plot hole. The films built a full technical chain of custody for every one of them, manufactured hardware from birth, a credentialing event in a white room full of monitors, a signal with a mapped range that fails the instant Neo steps outside it, and a belief system the Oracle installed before any of the rest of it could matter. Supernatural was never on the table. It only ever looked that way because nobody was reading the code.